What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. The trade setup yesterday ended up being absolutely perfect. But outside of the trade setup, we got a couple of other setups on gold and euro, which I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But today we have another news day, which means that we potentially have another A+ day on our hands. Now, whether or not the trade actually shows itself is another question. And honestly, I'm feeling a little bit uncertain about it, which again, we'll talk about it right now. So take a look at the daily bias. We are definitely, looking bullish. In fact, the weekly bias is also bullish. So overall, we're going to be looking for a bullish trade. And the problem comes when we go into the 1 hourly time frame, because now you've got a couple of relatively equal lows over here, which usually acts as a magnet for liquidity. If you know anything about just smart money trading and like liquidity concepts, you know that relatively equal lows and relatively equal highs, the reason why they're so, attractive is because most retail traders tend to look at this level and they're going to be like, oh, wow, look at this, strong support. Price bounced from this level 2 times and it failed to break above and it failed to break below it. What do people tend to do? Well, A, is that when that support gets ultimately broken, they're going to jump into a little breakout trade. Or in this case, a breakdown trade. Secondly, once you approach that support level, which again, people tend to mark out just based off of like what is a reasonable level for that support level to be, then what ends up happening is that you have a group of people that are going into the market at this exact point here. And that's just the second reason why support and resistance levels are so attractive for, the market makers. The third is that when we are taught about how to place our stop losses, we're usually taught to, for example, if we go long here, we would place our stop loss underneath the previous swing low, or in some cases underneath previous support. In 3 cases here, it just leads to the same outcome, which is there's going to be a very big concentration of people either getting stopped out or entering the markets at this level, which is very lucrative for the market makers if they were to just bring the price here and then start reversing it to the opposite direction. If you've ever faced something like this, just understand this is how liquidity works. This is how the market makers like to operate. This is just how the markets work. We now know that this is a very, interesting level for the market makers to bring the price back down to before some kind of pump. The problem is that we are having a bullish daily bias. And in the event that we do come back to this level, it is a very high there is a very high likelihood that we are going to get some sort of a bearish change in state of delivery to the downside. Because in order to confirm a bearish CISD, you just need a candle close on the 1 hourly chart below 69,143. If that happens, we're going to run out of time frame alignment, because so far, like, the hourly order flow is still bullish, the daily order flow is also bullish, and the 5-minute order flow is bullish, which means that everything is kind of checking out for a potential bullish trade, plus the fact that we have news coming later at 8:30 a.m. So far, we are still going to be looking for a long, but we also keep in mind that as we approach that news window, if the market starts showing signs that it's kind of breaking down and it's kind of starting to reach for that liquidity level, we want to get the hell out, or at the very least, we want to avoid taking a long, because there is a very high likelihood you will reach for this area. But this does not mean, like, just having relatively equal lows does not mean that the market is going to sweep it today before pumping. In fact, I don't think we have enough time for the markets to do that, like, within the same day. Case in point. After all, the news window lasts for a couple of hours, and we are looking for a trade to get in and get out within that couple of hour window. That is not enough time for us to not only wait for this to happen, but then still take advantage of that after the fact. So we're still going to be looking for a long, like, literally everything is already kind of like in place for some sort of a long. In fact, let me just enable the kill zones so I know where the Asia kill zone is. So far, London, or rather, prior to London, you've already swept out the Asia lows. So far, you've already tapped the Asia high. Right now, the only thing you want to be looking for is A, you don't want price to break below this order block right here on the 5-minute chart. Secondly, you want price to go above this level so that you can confirm a second order block. And ideally, you don't want to break below this order block, so that by the time you get into that news window, which at the time that I'm recording this video, it is about 6:40. We're about an hour away from the news window. Once you go into the news window, you're going to be looking for a trade like that. And you're going to be targeting, ideally, I think, the previous daily high. Ignore that level right there that I drew for CISD. Like, this would be kind of like the intraday target, as well as this previous daily high over here. Now again, ignore the CISD, it's just that will be the intraday targets. And it makes sense, right? If we go into the daily chart, all right, we have a bullish daily bias. When you have a bullish daily bias, you tend to target previous daily highs. So it makes total sense. So far, everything is already looking in line for a bullish trade. So even right now, if I want to get into it, once you get the CISD confirmation, we already can. The only caveat and the only concern that you want to watch out for is a potential kind of like breakdown heading into that news window. If you start getting various changes to state of delivery on the 5-minute chart, that is going to signify that price is potentially going to reach for that liquidity level. And by the way, just on the note of like liquidity levels and like relatively equal lows, like, we have many examples of, like, for example, over here, you have a couple of relatively equal lows. If you purely like try to avoid the trade purely because of relatively equal lows, you would have missed out on this entire thing here, which is why, like, that kind of breaks down my thought process when I'm focusing more on the overall daily bias, more on the overall hourly bias, and just like, hey guys, everything's looking bullish. We're just going to trade it until the market proves otherwise, because there will be some warning signs when the market proves otherwise. And I will be posting this all on Twitter for you to see. So feel free to follow me there. And by the way, if you'd like to live trade with me every single day from this month all the way until April 19th, I'm running this thing called VIP, where I'm basically live trading, where I'm basically just live trading every single day with a small group of people, like just 200 people. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I ran this once before last November, and the results have been amazing. Most people made their money back within a couple of weeks. Quite a number of people actually made it back within a single trade. After all, it's only a couple of $100. If you'd like to get direct access to how I think about the markets, as well as all of the other trades that I'm taking outside of crypto for the next 5 weeks, click the first link in the description box below, because we're going to be doing a live trading Zoom call later on. And like, yeah, the earlier you join in, the more value you're going to get out of it. But otherwise, going back into the trade, I think so far that is pretty clear. Again, I will update stuff as we go. And in terms of Ethereum, let's take a look at it real quick. So far, we've got a bullish daily bias, which is clean. And so far, the only like realistic target on the daily chart is going to be right here at 2200. Now, whether or not we're going to get that is like, it remains to be seen. Again, same thing here. You have relatively equal lows, and the CIC level would be at 2080. Either way, you're just going to be prioritizing along. I would choose Bitcoin over Ethereum, but let's take a look at the 5-minute chart to see if I'm missing something. Oh yeah, okay. Ethereum is actually looking quite considerably stronger than Bitcoin in this case, where you have this order block right here on the 5-minute chart and this order block right here. So hey, who knows, once we get into that news window, we might even prioritize Ethereum just because of how much stronger it looks compared to Bitcoin. And yeah, Ethereum definitely looks stronger than Bitcoin. So I would definitely consider Ethereum as the candidate to go for when it comes to a long. Later on, we're going to talk about a couple of other pairs as well, like specifically the Nasdaq and oil, because I have a pretty decent setup today. But let me finish up with Solana for now. Solana, you have a bullish daily bias, and so far looking quite considerably weaker compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin. So in the day today where we are looking for longs, I think I would just try to avoid this. But yeah, exactly the same setup, where you have a couple of order blocks, and that is that. So now let's get into Nasdaq, which if any of you are trading Forex, or just traditional assets, just understand that you have a bearish daily bias and you are coming into a bearish order block. So you know how the drill is going to be. It's taking a short and targeting this low and potentially even this low over here. Nasdaq honestly looks the cleanest, but don't sleep on oil either, because oil, you have a bullish daily bias and you are coming back into this block of 1 hourly support. So looking for a long on oil, that is going to be a fantastic trade. And either way, today is a news day, so don't miss it. It's going to be a fun day, and I'll see you guys on X later. And looking forward to seeing some of you in VIP, because genuinely, last time I did it, we got such great results that I'm going to run it again for the next 5 weeks. I'm not going to be running this for at least the next few months. So get it while you can, and spots will fill up. Otherwise, see you later. Ciao, ciao.